everyone, and welcome to Wyoming Watch, the Wyoming Tribune Eagle's podcast. My name is Alyssa Tolman. I'm the local government and business reporter here for the Tribune Eagle, and our podcast today features Laramie County Clerk Debra, who sat down with the WTE's editorial board Monday to discuss election security ahead of the upcoming August 18th primaries. Discussing things from how ballot boxes are monitored to how she ensures ballots are counted accurately, Lee says voters should approach the ballot box confidently, knowing the process is closely monitored and protected. First, Lee explained the electronic voting system used across the state. The process requires two machines, a ballot marker, which she described as an expensive pencil, and a tabulator, which reads the marked ballot and counts the vote.
So I'll go back to what the whole state uses, because we all use the same election systems and software, which is ES&S. It's the largest election vendor in the nation. It's headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska, and that we have not all had the same equipment. That was a first in 2020 because before, counties chose their vendor, and there were 3 counties in the state that had Dominion, and then there were the other counties had ES&S. Well, in 2019, we were discussing with the clerks were discussing with the Secretary of State, we needed, we were ready to look at one vendor for the whole state. Made a whole lot of sense for many reasons, economic, technology-wise, as well as education and capacity building of staff if we're all on the same system. So an RFP was done and ES&S was selected, and so we got the equipment in 2020. However, counties were able to choose what kind of equipment within the ES&S family that we could use. So Laramie County, because our voters were so accustomed to touchscreens, it had been many years of using those that we thought it would be a better more seamless transition if we kept to that. So we did, and that's why we are the county that uses ballot marking devices exclusively for in-person voting. So all the same equipment, all the same software. It's all the same software for tabulation, for everything. And I will note on the ballot marking devices, every county is required to have at least one in every polling place.
Then she explained how exactly the voting process happens via the system.
A person goes on the ballot marking device or touchscreen. They make their selections on the screen. They're able to review their selections. In fact, they can review them multiple times before they actually hit print.
Back and forth through the
When they
screens.
hit print, the paper ballot is then printed, which they also can review. So if they saw that paper ballot and said, well, this isn't what I want, then they would surrender that. It would be spoiled and then be given a new ballot to start. So once they get their ballot and they're happy with it, the way it's printed, they then go insert it into the tabulator. And at the vote center level, because we have vote centers, that's also something, it's not unique to Wyoming, but we were the county that piloted vote centers. And there are, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure how many, 3 or 4 counties use vote centers. And a vote center is a place where any person can cast their ballot. So that tabulator, back to the tabulator, we have one or more in every polling location. And the voter inserts that ballot into the tabulator, and then it says, thank you for voting. So then the voter knows that it's in there. You also see the registry go up.
Lee says the ballot marking device is designed to fit the needs of people with any ability or disability.
The benefits of the expensive pencil are that you can expand the print.
You can.
It can even probably read it audibly to you.
It can. It's designed for voters of all abilities and disabilities.
Okay, so.
Those that are blind can actually listen to an audio ballot.
Yeah.
They can mark their choices there's a braille paddle. They can mark it with that. There's even a sip and puff device, which people can insert their own device in there, and I'm not sure how that works, but I have seen voters use that to where they sip and puff to make a selection. Yeah, it's amazing technology.
If they have quadriplegic.
Yes, and we do have those voters, and it enables them to vote independently and securely. And as you mentioned, the screen can be enlarged or It can be dark, the background can be dark.
For contrast.
Yeah, for the contrast. My boss at the Secretary of State's office used to come in, she goes, I always forget my cheaters, and I like this machine because, I don't have to have my cheaters on.
Sure, yeah.
And it also, this is a huge advantage, it won't let a voter make a mistake and overvote. That is huge in Laramie County.
Right.
In fact, I've often told legislators, if you look on the Secretary of State's website at the overvotes for any race that they have posted on there, and you look at the overvotes, those maybe could have made a difference in a race. And an overvote is when people choose more than what's allowed. So it says vote for one, you pick two, or commissioners, vote for three,
But
and you pick
paper
four.
can't stop you.
Yeah, the machine will not let you overvote.
And just in a general election, I know I usually go to like Story Gym. So if I go to Story Gym and vote, can I come later that afternoon to like the county courthouse and vote, or would the connection know that I, as a voter,
We
already
know.
voted?
Yeah, because now the reason I said we have vote centers, so which means a voter can go to any one of 7 locations on election day and cast a ballot. Plus, and you also mentioned early voting, but we have an electronic poll book. That's another security measure, and you have to have that if you have a vote center.
Okay.
You absolutely have to have an electronic poll book. So this tells us if someone went to Story and then later went to LCCC and tried to vote. It tells us if someone already voted early. It tells us if they went to another location and cast a ballot.
Okay.
So with vote centers too, the tabulators, they're all one and the same because they have to be programmed to accept every ballot style from every single precinct, every single party, because a voter could show up from
Anywhere,
any
yeah.
one of those locations.
Precinct.
They have to be all programmed the same,
Exactly.
identically, which is an advantage too, because if we had to swap out a machine, let's say something happened, we would be able to put in another machine that's already been tested and sealed. And I credit my predecessor because she's the one that piloted the vote centers, and we did it in a municipal election in 2015. And then we went live in 2016 with the primary and general. I think voters adjusted very seamlessly to it, and a friend told me, she said, I've run into more people with the vote center concept than I did with the precinct-based polling place. The advantage too is we have a lot of people that work in Cheyenne, but they live in eastern Laramie County. I was surprised at the number of people that commute daily, and they now don't have to go back to their home and worry about getting there during the time polls are open to vote. They can vote here. Also, we have an app on election day where people can go in and see the estimated waiting time at any one location. Or if you happen to be in town in a certain area on that day, you can pick the location that's closest to you. But people tend to be creatures of habit. They tend to go to wherever they went before.
It's true, or whatever's most convenient to your house or whatever.
Right. And early voting is hugely popular.
Oh, I love
And it is hugely popular. In fact, I looked at a statistic. In 2022 primary, I picked that just because it's the previous primary where we had a similar ballot. 46% of registered voters voted before election day. 46%.
That's amazing.
And that number has grown through the years. I will say, though, predominantly those numbers are from early in-person voting, not absentee. Increasingly, early voting is very popular, and the library was very popular as a polling place.
Do you think that the lack of participation in absentee ballots is because of like our lack of drop boxes and lack and maybe the restrictions on who can request an absentee ballot?
I do know in those, some of the facilities, senior facilities, I do know some of those people that are not registered have trouble getting documents now. Because sometimes they have to go back and get a birth certificate from some other state that's years old. And I mean, they have, and I think they just don't really know quite how to do that.
Sure.
And the time it might take to do that, and the expense as well is a factor.
Yeah.
So, but the on the Dropbox, yeah, that's increasingly popular as well. And I have been asked so many times, are you going to have it again? Because we did keep it, I call it a burqa. We had her in her burqa for, during off elections. And we didn't open it the first couple days of Frontier Days because absentee ballots had just gone out, and we don't want anything happening to that box, any graffiti on it or anything. So we did open it up again, but I had a number of people ask me, is that going to be there again? And I want to use it. And in 2022 and 2024, we had nearly 6,000 voters in Laramie County use that Dropbox. And more than 2,000 of those were voters in the November 2024. When we first got Dropboxes, which was from Secretary Buchanan's administration, he allowed us to have only one per county. Yeah, and it had to be at the county building. We had actually bought another one, and we were going to put it at the library for a drive-through, but we didn't get to use it.
Amazing.
Now, Lee describes the process of counting the cast votes and how election workers ensure each one is viable. The process involves a 3-person canvassing board.
So we go through and we reconcile the number of voters with the number of ballots cast. That's the first thing. And then you also look at the absentee ballots, including that, and you compare all those numbers. And our canvassing board you mentioned, because a lot of people don't know what that is, and it's the county clerk, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. And we've had the same canvassing board for a number of years. We did, I think a few years ago, we replaced the Democrat because he became a judge. Our other canvassing board member became a judge. And we sit and we review all those reports. We look at any provisional ballots and determine if, in fact, they will be counted. Because a provisional is a conditional ballot. That means that the voter either couldn't prove their eligibility to register or vote, or there was some issue with their address. They had an address that doesn't appear to be a real Laramie County address, according to our GIS. So we look at all those things and determine if that ballot will in fact be opened and counted. Occasionally you'll have a person who forgot their ID, and you can't tell them because it's too late in the day.
Right.
It's close to 7 p.m. and then they don't have their ID to vote. They're already registered though, and they don't have time to go back and get it, in which case it's a provisional ballot. They have to come back to our office by close of business the following day and bring that documentation to us in order to have their vote counted. We've also had provisional ballots issued when an election judge checked in the wrong voter. Now I will say voter ID has helped that, but before it often happened with a father and son who had the same name, and the election judge would just click the wrong one. And then later the father would, let's say the son voted, the father would come later and then say, well, you already voted. No, I didn't, So he got a provisional ballot, and then the canvassing board would look at that. I've seen that happen, I'd say maybe 3 times, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened where the election judge made a mistake, checked in the wrong voter. But as I said, with the e-poll books and the IDs now, that has minimized that error. Let's go back to how you get an absentee ballot.
Yeah.
You have to be a registered voter to request one. It is sent to your information on your record, and it has a bar. When you get that ballot, the envelope has a barcode on it that is directly tied to your voter registration record. So we know who requested it, the date it was requested, the date it went out from our office. When that ballot comes back to us, either through the mail or through the Dropbox, we call it binking in. We bink it in, that barcode and the person's record comes up. So it's directly, there's a clear direction accounting of all that, of the request and the receipt of it. We also put the method that we received it. So if it was Dropbox pickup, or if it was hand delivered to us, if it came in the mail, we put that in the counting too. On the Dropbox, we have 3 cameras on it. We have the video is all recorded. We can go back and look at it. During the day, I do watch it. You know, when I'm there working, I watch people come and drop off their ballots, and then I'll look at it and see on the weekend when they came. And it's really, it's wonderful to see voters who feel empowered by being able to use that, because I see I see people on their walkers and, you know, coming up in there, and older people with their dogs there, and they're putting their ballot in, and I've seen people take selfies by it, you know. It's really affirming that they have that ability, and they know it's delivered to us, it's delivered securely, safely. We also go and we regularly empty it twice a day. We have a bipartisan team of our staff that goes out, and they do wear a uniform, sheriff's deputy. So they empty it, and we also have seals within that box, numbered security seals. So each time we open it, we break that seal, and we have that log, that chain of custody, the log for all the seals on that box. On election night, which 7 p.m. is that deadline, we put a digital clock on top of the drop box. We take a picture of it, so we know it was 7 p.m. because no one can deliver any absentee ballot after that time. So we take a picture of it, and then we empty everything out of it, and then we seal it. When we do empty it, we have a secure pouch that they put all those ballots in. And so it goes directly from that box. Again, the bipartisan team with the sheriff's deputy comes back to our staff, and those seals again are all checked on the pouch, and then they are put right into the system at that point.
I'm curious because I recently moved here from Colorado, and I think from the time I was 20 on, so probably for like 20 years or so, I voted with an absentee ballot. And sometimes I would mail it back, and sometimes but mostly I would just drop it off at my local library in the ballot drop box.
Right.
But having an absentee ballot is such a convenience factor and an ability to, like, I would sit down with my ballot with the websites that I liked, whether it was League of Women Voters or something that explained all the different referendums and that kind of stuff, and vote while I was like learning about things at the same time. And if you can't do that, it makes being an voter harder. But I know that it seems like the amount of people who use absentee ballots here is a lot less. And I'm wondering if, like, what are the reasons? Is it because lack of confidence in it? Is it because there's a stigma around it because some of our state leaders are so opposed to it?
You raise an interesting question, and I think a lot of it is people don't know. I've had people tell me, I didn't know I could do this. You mean I can just call up and ask for one? Yeah. I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah.
When did that start? Oh, it's been here for a long time.
And those stay sealed until after the polls close, and then that's when that
Thank you for
process
asking
starts.
that. So they come in, whether by mail, hand delivered, or drop box. They're banked in, so we know we got it. And also, if that person then tries to go vote early or go to a polling place, we know we got it. That's considered cast. Once we get it in our possession, that is cast. And we secure it unopened, it's sealed, and then it is not open, and it cannot be opened by law until the day of the election, where we go through and process it. There is one exception to that. We can inform the Secretary of State that we're going to early process, and we're allowed 1 day that we can choose to early process. That is either the Thursday or the Friday before the election. That is if we had an extraordinary volume or some issue that we felt we needed additional time to do it.
Just for capacity.
And in 2020, we had We had that, and that saved us because we had such a huge volume of ballots, and especially if you have military and overseas voters, their ballots take a long time to process because we have to duplicate them. Most of those voters get their ballot sent to them by email, okay? They cannot return it by email, but they get it by email, they mark it, and they have to mail it back to us. We then have to recreate that ballot.
I see what you're saying.
On a ballot, a real ballot form, so articulated, and that is painstaking. That takes a long time.
That's military. Anybody else?
And overseas voters.
Oh, all overseas voters.
Yeah, that qualify under the federal law.
Right. Okay.
And is that part of the reason? So I'm a habitual on election night refresh.
Yeah, good for you.
Good for me because
good for you.
It takes till like 9:30 at night or 10 o'clock, and they start trickling in. Is that part of why? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, why don't you just go look what the numbers say on the tabulation machine, and why don't they just show up right away? I would think you would. I would think you would know at 7:05 who won the races in each.
Yeah.
Not really. No.
It's quite painstaking. Again, we look at all the reports. There's the provisionals too. You have to look at. And the military and overseas have a thing called FWAB, Federal Write-In Absentee Ballot, and that means if they requested an absentee ballot but they did not receive it, they could do what they call an FWAB, and it means they're just picking the federal races and saying these are the people I want, and they just send that to us.
Okay.
And we have to put that on a ballot form.
Then does you and your staff put in for the absentee ballots or paper delivered in person? That is all then inputted as well into your electronic poll
Once you
Yes,
open the
yes.
separately, or does the tabulation machine do that?
Those don't go out to polling places, those absentee ballots. They stay in our headquarters. And we tabulate those down in the basement of the clerk's office. And we use a high-speed tabulator. It's called a DS-450. Where we run all the absentees through, whether they were, and early votes, whether they were cast in the atrium, in person, or from satellite early voting. And so also the military and overseas. We also use that equipment, those tabulators, the big ones. We use those for any recounts we need to do. Because I used to call myself the recount queen because I had more dang recounts in my term. I think there was 1 year I didn't have recounts, but just about every year I had a recount. And we use those high-speed ones. But again, it's all the same software for all of it.
Lee said it's not likely for someone to be able to hack the county's electronic voting system.
To hack the system, it would have to be a huge conspiracy of people because we have so many safeguards and we have cameras on every, we have physical security plus the technological security elements. As I talked about, those USB drives they're all encrypted. We have a chain of custody for those. Everything we do is documented and logged, and like I said, we have cameras on them. These people all take an oath of office, which to me means something. We hired temps to move our equipment. I swore them all in. You are taking an oath here to honor the law and to respect this process. And we also have post-election audits, which are extremely important. We had 2 of them on the books, and then this year a third one was put on the books. So I'll tell you about those because they're important. So the first audit we do is just prior to the county canvass. So the SOS sends us a list of ballots based on this UW professor's formula to review the smallest observable percentage between statewide candidates and at least one legislative candidate who received the greatest number of votes and those who received the next highest. So he sends us the cast vote record that we have to use, and then we compare the cast vote record, which means how it was tabulated, with the ballot image. And we sit there and we go through, and sometimes that audit lasts 45 minutes, an hour. Other times I've seen it last 4 or 5 hours, depending on how many they give us to review. That audit is done by the canvassing board. And political party chairs are invited to that, and the public can come. The thing though is that they cannot see, the public and the party chairs can't see the ballot image, because under Wyoming law, the Constitution, the right, how you marked your ballot is private. And so they can't see that, but they can come and see the audit, and we send all those audit results to the Secretary of State's office. Then we do another post-election equipment audit, which is random audit of ballots, which we run. We take 5% of the tabulating equipment used on election day, and we run through the same test deck we ran through pre-election, through that same machine, to see if anything changed. So that way you're saying, was anything different about how this machine tabulated?
So that's
because you
using
tested it before the election.
Using the same test deck,
The
not actual
same,
ballots.
exactly the same test deck. And we do that, and that has to be done within 30 days of the election. And again, parties are invited to that.
So does that mean if potentially a bad foreign actor manipulated, hacked anything, so you're using the same deck, you believe it would?
Because
It
that
show
would be
you that.
before the
Because that's
election.
part of the
Yeah.
concern, right, is that
Yeah.
China
Something
or
happened
Iran or
during
somebody-
the election.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how you would figure out if a foreign actor had manipulated anything.
The only thing-
Potentially.
Yeah, if they could, but, you know, and then another thing is the websites too that have results, because there's been concerns that somebody could go in and change a result on it. But now we have .gov, and Laramie County has very secure technology with county government, because we're part of emergency management. Not every county manages the emergency component, but Laramie County does, so we have all the highest level of cybersecurity. And the third audit, this will be the new audit. So this was a bill passed this year, and the county clerk actually worked with the senator. We worked with him on crafting this legislation. So we have to do a hand count audit of as close to 5% of ballots cast on election day, and compare the hand count results to those tabulated by the equipment. So again, it's another audit of results, but this is a hand count audit. And we compare those results, and the audited races include one federal race, one statewide race selected by the Secretary of State, and all legislative races. This has to be done not later than 9 days after the county canvass. And we have to report those results to the Secretary of State's office, as well as to the Joint Corporations Committee. This is a pilot to show how long this takes, what are the costs. So we'll be doing a thorough report on that. This is a new audit. And it's also going to make us, Wyoming, have one of the most comprehensive audits. For Laramie County, that means 16 legislative races.
And to close us off, Lee explained the key facts that voters should know before heading to the polls in a couple weeks, and gave advice for people who continue to cast doubt on the security of elections.
There's the requirement for citizenship and residency. And again, the Wyoming driver's license is the ID. If you have that, bring it, because unless it has an indication that you are not a citizen, you know, it's gonna check all the boxes. I think my biggest concern is the length of the ballot, and people that are not prepared. They're not prepared for that. We had someone come in to vote, and they were hurrying to go to the parade. They thought they would vote and go to the parade.
Yeah.
And they said, we didn't know this ballot was this long, we're gonna have to come back. And once you've checked in, the presumption is you're
You're gonna vote.
you're gonna vote.
Are the ballots, so if I wanted to see what the ballot looks like for
Yeah.
my address, is that available online? I
Oh,
know you
yeah,
can pick 'em up.
absolutely.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
printing them off for people pretty regularly.
Yeah.
We just print off a sample.
You just
ballot.
put in your address and then you pick your party,
Okay.
because we
Right.
wouldn't know what your party is, and, based on your
Okay.
address. And if you want an absentee ballot, request it now. I mean,
How,
because the
Early
longer
due
you
diligence.
wait, the more it eats into your 28 days. And then you don't have that long
Then you've got
to
7
get
days
it
to
back,
get
and
it
that's
back.
where the drop box is essential.
Right, yeah.
It is really essential. I would say get involved, come to public tests, come to the things that are open to the public, and talk to an
Be a
election
poll
judge,
worker
be a
even.
poll worker. Yeah, that is the best way.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you still
Because these
looking-
are your neighbors and friends, and,
Now, here are our top headlines from this week. First, the Downtown Development Authority's Cost Benefit Task Force has recommended a transition that would move the DDA from the Planning and Development Department to the city's Community Recreation and Events Department. The DDA works within Cheyenne's downtown district to stop and prevent deterioration, support redevelopment, and promote long-term vitality, according to the DDA's website. If the proposal is approved, the DDA would continue as an organization and municipal board, but the potential transition to the CRE department would allow for knowledge sharing and more action, said DDA Executive Director Sophia Mace. Next, the Cheyenne Police Department on Thursday released crime data collected during Cheyenne Frontier Days. Calls for service, arrests, and summons/citations decreased across the city, a CPD news release said. The 10-day analysis contains data that was collected from July 17, 2026 through July 26, 2026, and compared it across Frontier Week in 2025. According to the data, Cheyenne police officers responded to 2,340 calls for service. During the week, 44 arrests were made and 84 summons/citations were issued. There were 1.8% fewer calls in 2026 compared to 2,382 in 2025 and 20 fewer arrests. And finally, local officials are asking for the public's help to determine how a stray bullet injured a 5-year-old on July 4th at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. During the downtown fireworks show, a dependent daughter of an airman was injured at approximately 10 p.m. on the east end of the Trails End parking lot on F.E. Warren Air Force Base, according to Base Commander Colonel Terry Holmes. The girl was found to have a bullet inside her sinus cavity, which was successfully removed by doctors at Children's Hospital Colorado in Aurora. She is now home and recovering with family. And now here's our arts and entertainment reporter Carly Elders to talk about this week's upcoming events.
Today, rounding out the month of July, the Terry Bison Ranch is holding a shootout and train robbery show, free after their 5:30 a.m. train ride. From 2 to 4 p.m., celebrate Harry Potter's birthday at the library, and then at 7:30 p.m., Rock Band Lit will perform for Fridays on the Plaza, with The Romance opening at 6 p.m. Pinch It a Punch, first of the month, beginning Saturday, August 1st from 10 to 11:30 a.m. as a part of their Vegetable Garden series. The Botanic Gardens is hosting Harvesting and Preparing for Fall. At the Little America Hotel and Resort from noon until 6 p.m. is the Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival, and then from 5 to 7 p.m., catch the Extra Lives concert at the library. Wrapping up the day is True Troop's improv performance of Shakespeare's Hamlet in Holiday Park, behind the Cheyenne Artists Guild. If you miss it or want to see a completely new and hilarious iteration, the troupe will put on a second performance on Sunday the 2nd at 1:30 p.m. Also on Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., the library is hosting a primary election satellite early voting event. At 3 p.m. is the Steve Price Memorial Ranch Rodeo, featuring local ranch teams competing in classic events to honor the Wyoming cowboy and auctioneer at the Laramie County Fair. Also on the fairgrounds is the Salsa Showdown, beginning at 6 p.m. Continuing the highlights of the Laramie County Fair is the pie baking contest at 6 p.m. on Monday the 3rd. Off the fairgrounds, from 6:30 to 8 p.m., is the Wyoming International Chamber Music Festival outreach event at the Blue Raven Brewery. On Tuesday, August 4th, from 3 to 6 p.m. is the Terror Narratives Artist Demonstration Day at the library. Then, at the Brimmer Amphitheater in Lions Park at 7 p.m. is the Cheyenne City Band Concert. Also at 7 p.m. will be the Laramie County Fair's highlight event that day, mutton bustin' and stick horse racing. Wednesday, August 5th is packed full of activities. From 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., taking over the Laramie County Fair is the Cheyenne Ruth Rodeo Series. At the library, there is a chair, yoga, and poetry event that runs from 2:30 to 3:20 p.m., followed by a drop-in knitting session, Stitch Fix, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Across town at Miracle Valley Church, there is an Amani Milele Children's Choir from Uganda performing at 7 p.m. Still awake? Drop at the University of Wyoming's planetarium for their Our Extraordinary Night Skies party. On Thursday evening, there will be Session 4 of the Informed Voters series at the library, there to prepare you for the upcoming election. At the Laramie County Fair, pig wrestling begins at 7 p.m. And finally, to wrap up the 6th, catch the Dexter and Moonrocks concert at the Lincoln at 8 p.m. For the full list of events, go to wyomingnews.com/calendar.
And with that, thank you for listening to Wyoming Watch. Tune in next week for more local news.